Imagine a future where a global catastrophe looms, a supervolcano, a devastating flood, or a sudden climate shift. Our satellites scream warnings, but is it enough? What if the key to our survival lies not in advanced tech, but in the echoes of a forgotten past? For centuries, we've dismissed ancient cultures as primitive, their warnings as mere superstition. But what if they possessed an intuitive, earth-tuned intelligence, a way of listening to the planet that we've long since lost? Consider the Maya. Their calendar system wasn't just about tracking time, it was a profound, cyclical understanding of cosmic and earthly patterns. It mapped cycles of drought, famine, and societal upheaval with chilling precision. Dr. Barbara McLeod, an epigrapher specializing in Mesoamerican cultures, has meticulously analyzed Mayan texts, revealing how their long-count calendar encoded astronomical events directly linked to agricultural success and environmental stability. This wasn't some doomsday prophecy, as often misconstrued. It was a sophisticated predictive model, allowing them to anticipate long-term shifts in weather and resource availability, guiding their agricultural practices for centuries. They observed the subtle shifts in star positions, the changing intensity of the sun, and the migration patterns of birds, integrating these into a holistic system of environmental forecasting. Their cities, like Tikal and Palenque, were built with an acute awareness of water management. Intricate reservoirs and canals weren't just for daily use, they were a hedge against the very droughts their calendar foretold. But when those cycles intensified, pushing beyond the predicted norms, even the Maya struggled. The collapse of classic Maya civilization in the 9th century is now widely attributed by archaeologists like Dr. Richard Gill to prolonged drought. This wasn't a failure of their warning system, but a testament to the severity of the crisis. Their system warned them, but sometimes the scale of the threat simply overwhelmed even the best preparation. Travel now to ancient Egypt, a civilization utterly dependent on the Nile. Its annual flood was life itself, but too much or too little could mean devastation. How did they manage? They built Nilometers, elaborate staircases or wells with marked scales, to measure the river's height. These weren't simple gauges, they were crucial data points in a national early warning system. A 2007 study published in Nature Geoscience by researchers studying Nile sediment cores confirmed the accuracy of ancient Egyptian flood records, demonstrating a remarkable understanding of long-term hydrological cycles. Priests and scribes meticulously recorded these measurements for millennia, creating a massive data set. This allowed pharaohs to predict agricultural yields, plan for famine relief, and even adjust tax rates years in advance. This wasn't just about survival, it was about societal stability. Knowing when the river would rise, and by how much, prevented chaos and ensured the continuity of one of history's longest-lasting empires. Yet, even with this meticulous system, the Egyptians weren't immune. Prolonged periods of low floods, as documented by Dr. Fekri Hassan in his work on ancient Egyptian climate, contributed to periods of political instability and famine. Their warning system was robust, but it couldn't change the weather. It only gave them the knowledge to adapt, to mitigate the worst effects, and to understand the planet's rhythms. We often think of global catastrophe in terms of sudden, violent events. But many ancient warnings were about slow, inexorable shifts, climate change, resource depletion, or social decay. Take the Norse sagas. Often dismissed as myth, these epic tales contain vivid descriptions of a changing climate, of ice receding and lands becoming barren, hinting at a deep ancestral memory of environmental shifts. The poetic Edda, specifically the poem Völuspá, speaks of Fimbulwinter, a harsh, endless winter preceding Ragnarok. While mythological, scholars like Dr. J.R.R. Tolkien noted how such narratives often reflect real environmental anxieties. Modern paleoclimate research, such as studies published in the Journal of Quaternary Science, has indeed shown periods of significant climate fluctuation in northern Europe coinciding with the migrations and societal stresses of the Norse peoples. These weren't explicit scientific predictions, but cultural narratives designed to transmit vital information across generations: how to survive harsh winters, where to find resources when the land changed, how to recognize the signs. What we often misunderstand about these ancient systems is their holistic nature. They didn't separate science from religion or observation from social practice. Everything was interconnected. The myth correction here is crucial, as many believe ancient peoples were simply fatalistic, accepting their fate. But in reality, their prophecies and omens were often calls to action, urging adaptation and preparation based on accumulated wisdom. Consider the elaborate terracing systems of the Inca, built high in the Andes. These weren't just farming plots, they were a sophisticated defense against erosion and variable rainfall, a direct response to a harsh, unpredictable environment. A 2010 study by the University of Cincinnati on Inca agricultural engineering highlighted how these terraces created microclimates, extending growing seasons and protecting crops from frost, a climate change adaptation strategy millennia ahead of its time. Their intricate road network, spanning thousands of miles, wasn't just for trade or conquest. It was a lifeline designed to quickly distribute food and resources in times of localized crop failure or natural disaster, a societal safety net. And what about the forgotten cities, like the Indus Valley civilizations Mohenjo-Daro and Harappa? Their sudden decline around 1900 BCE remains one of history's great mysteries. While various theories abound, increasing evidence, including sediment analysis published in Geology by Dr. Liviu Giosan, points to severe, prolonged drought and shifting monsoon patterns as major contributing factors. Did they have a warning system? We don't know the specifics, as their script remains undeciphered. But the advanced urban planning, with sophisticated drainage and water storage, suggests a people acutely aware of environmental risks. What we do not know about many of these vanished cultures is the precise mechanism of their warning dissemination. How effectively did knowledge travel from observers to decision-makers? How much was lost to internal strife or simply dismissed? This is where the human element becomes critical. Even the most accurate warning system is useless if the warnings are ignored, if society fails to act, or if political will is absent. The Roman Empire, for all its engineering prowess, faced its own warnings. Pliny the Elder, in his Natural History, documented numerous volcanic eruptions and earthquakes, and even discussed early warning signs observed by locals. Yet, the catastrophic eruption of Vesuvius in 79 CE, burying Pompeii and Herculaneum, shows that even with some understanding, the sheer scale and suddenness of certain events could overwhelm. The Romans had the observational capacity, but perhaps lacked the systematic, long-term data collection and interpretative framework that the Egyptians or Maya possessed for slow-burn threats. Think about the indigenous peoples of North America. For millennia, their oral traditions and ceremonial practices encoded deep ecological knowledge, often describing cycles of fire, flood, and resource scarcity. Dr. Robin Wall Kimmerer's work, particularly upbraiding Sweetgrass, illustrates how indigenous land management practices, like controlled burns, were direct responses to ancestral warnings about forest health and fire prevention. These weren't just stories, they were living instruction manuals, passed down through generations, ensuring survival in diverse and challenging environments, a testament to continuous observation and adaptation. The ancient warning systems weren't always complex technologies. Sometimes, they were simply patterns recognized in nature, interpreted through a cultural lens, and then acted upon. The flight of birds, the blooming of specific plants, the changing color of the sky, these were all data points, woven into a narrative that informed daily life and long-term planning. It's a profound thought, the Earth itself, constantly communicating, if only we knew how to listen. Our modern world, with its noise and distractions, has perhaps deafened us to these subtle signals. So, what can we, with all our satellites and supercomputers, learn from these ancient listeners? It's not about abandoning technology, but perhaps rediscovering a deeper connection to our planet. It's about cultivating long-term thinking, understanding cyclical patterns beyond a single human lifespan, and integrating diverse forms of knowledge, from scientific data to indigenous wisdom. Perhaps the next global catastrophe won't be averted by a single breakthrough, but by a synthesis of ancient foresight and modern ingenuity, recognizing the Earth's subtle language once more. Imagine if our urban planners considered not just the next 5 years, but the next 5 centuries, like the Maya did. If our resource management mirrored the long-term sustainability of the Inca. The ancient warnings aren't just historical curiosities. They are urgent lessons, whispered across millennia, about resilience, adaptation, and the profound wisdom of living in harmony with our world. They remind us that the greatest catastrophes often aren't sudden, but the culmination of ignored signs, of subtle shifts that gather momentum until they become unstoppable. The real warning system isn't external, it's within us, our capacity to observe, to learn, and to act collectively before it's too late. The challenge isn't just to predict the future, but to understand the past, to decipher the messages left by those who came before, and to finally heed them. Their forgotten wisdom might just be the key to our future, a silent alarm clock ticking since the dawn of civilization. The echoes of ancient warnings still resonate. Are we finally ready to listen?